a desperate struggle for breath. A woman discovers herself ensnared, her countenance encased in solidified wax, rendering her incapable of drawing breath. In her dire predicament, a man intervenes, prioritizing her urgent need for air. A fellow team member wields a surgical scalpel, meticulously removing the wax that clings to her mouth. They employ a device to immobilize her tongue, only to unveil that the wax has sealed her esophagus completely. Swiftly, they introduce a flexible tube, secure an oxygen mask, and, at last, restore her ability to respire. She is promptly rushed to the hospital. It unravels that her perilous situation transpired during a beauty treatment at a salon when an adjacent wax container suddenly discharged its contents, placing the woman in jeopardy.
The doctor pulled a cockroach out of the girl's nose. The nurse was in shock.
A cockroach? What?
But how did the cockroach crawl into her nostril? Through a CT scan, the doctor discovered the girl had a skull fracture. Cerebrospinal fluid had leaked into her nasal cavity, attracting the cockroach to crawl in. But why did the girl have a fracture? After further asking, the girl finally admitted she was a victim of domestic violence. Afraid to go home, she went to a homeless camp, but she was brought to the hospital after having seizures. The nurse called the child welfare department, hoping they could take her in, but the girl was afraid of being sent back to face more abuse, so she secretly ran back to the homeless camp. After their shift, the two went to see her. The girl was lying on the ground, looking very weak. They brought her some essentials and antibiotics, and taught her friend how to care for her wounds, hoping she could survive in this harsh place. The plane was about to fall down.
It's flipping!
The pilot was trapped in the cockpit and unable to move. The firefighter had to comfort him while asking someone to bring a stretcher just as they were about to pull the man out.
Wait! The heart! This is a transplant flight!
But they decided to pull the man out first. The plane suddenly dropped several meters. The firefighter quickly jumped out. Seeing this, the captain had no choice but to go in himself. He put on his gear and dove into the plane, quickly retrieving the organ box. Just then, the support line snapped. Fortunately, the team leader was fine, and the organ box landed safely. The man kidnapped the cop's son.
Hands. Hands!
Her husband was puzzled, wondering what grudge the man had against his ex-wife.
I shut off his junk.
I'm sorry, you did what now?
His magic wand. I shot it off.
The husband laughed. It turned out the man was a rapist. During one arrest, the cop accidentally shot his ball. Since then, he could no longer be standing up. In his quest for revenge, he hid the boy in the walls of a half-finished building, then lured the cop out for a duel, tempting her to fire her weapon.
Damn it! Wasn't loaded. What? Where's Harry? Tell me where he is!
But the man died, and the trail went cold. 9 people were in a car crash, but only 8 were found. Where did the 9th person go? Firefighters rushed to the scene, and after searching through 100 bushes, they finally found the last person. But when they were lifting him onto the ambulance, he was still talking about being late for work. Then he passed out. The others weren't in great shape either. One person's ankle was bent at 90 degrees, another was pinned under a motorcycle, and one even got thrown into a tree. The firefighters acted quickly, but some of them had internal injuries. If they didn't get to the hospital in time, they wouldn't make it. Meanwhile, the firefighters got news that the man who passed out didn't survive, but because he signed up to donate his organs, the other 8 people were all saved. What do you think of this? A tornado appeared over New York, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a vortex created by killer bees.
It's a bee-nado.
The killer bees attacked a man mercilessly. He screamed for help. But the woman refused to save him, and they couldn't escape either. The bees quickly covered the entire vehicle. Some even entered through the dashboard. The mother urged her girl not to move, but the girl couldn't resist and swatted a bee off her face. She was allergic, and being stung made it hard for her to breathe. The mother quickly called 911 for help. The dispatcher guided her on how to administer an injection. The girl soon recovered, but then the mother got stung as well, revealing that her allergy was hereditary. Just as the mother was nearing collapse, the firefighters outside drove the killer bees away and successfully rescued both of them. Do you know how killer bees came to be?
A man got stuck in the guillotine, narrowly avoiding a complete beheading. Fortunately, the blade jammed, preventing a successful cosplay execution. Nevertheless, the man suffered a neck wound, luckily missing the vital arteries. The paramedics first tried to reassure the man, and then brought cutting tools. Even with the combined efforts of several people, the blade remained unmoved, bringing the man's wife to tears on the side. So, the rescue team had to pick up the saw and cut, but the man angrily shouted for them to stop, because he needed the guillotine for a performance. The rescue team ignored him, cut the fixed point, used a spreader to open the gap, and finally pulled up the blade. The man was at last rescued, and as the paramedic looked at the wound on his neck, she couldn't help but feel a pain in her own neck.
Tens of killer bees danced in his mouth. The firefighters were shocked. Turned out, not long ago, a woman had crashed head-on into a large truck. That truck was carrying tens of millions of bees. The truck driver was stung to death by the furious bees, and the passenger next to him was also been attacked, his face swelling like a pig's head. Chimney quickly fetched a suction device and used it on the man's mouth. It took a full 666 minutes to remove all the bees. Then, the medical team began rubbing the man's chest.
Come on. Come on.
He finally regained consciousness.
There we go. All right.
But the first thing the man said upon waking was,
Why do I taste honey?
Chimney thought, you guess why? The woman had bruises on her face, but when she saw her husband's angry expression, she could only say she was fine. Just then, firefighters got a call. A woman covered in blood opened the door, but said she was fine. As the firefighters were curious, a man suddenly stepped out from behind her and slammed the door shut. The firefighters guessed the wife must have faced domestic abuse, so they knocked on the door again, lying that they needed a signature to leave. After saying that, the man opened the door, and the female firefighter quickly separated the two, making the woman sit on the couch. The male firefighter pushed the man into a corner, demanding to know what he did to the woman, but the man claimed nothing happened, and the woman denied the domestic abuse when asked.
This is my place, and that's my wife, and she says she's fine. Well, she doesn't look fine.
But the woman still insisted she was okay, so the firefighters had to leave after signing a consent form. But they didn't expect that. Right after dropping off the injured person at the hospital, they saw the woman again, and this time she looked unrecognizable. The firefighter fell into deep thought. On the way back to the station, he returned to this family's door, lying that he forgot his equipment inside. Then he went to the door, and when the husband opened it, the man pushed him inside, throwing a punch right away. Finally, the husband gave in and promised he would never abuse again. Do you think the husband's words are trustworthy?
The woman was just applying makeup in the car when suddenly the driver slammed the brakes. The eyeliner pencil went straight into her eyeball, causing her to tremble in pain. The paramedic comforted her to stay calm. The driver rushed over, eager to deflect blame and explain the situation. The woman urged the paramedic to remove the eyeliner pencil quickly. Faced with such an injury, the paramedic was uncertain how to proceed and opted for initial wound care before rushing her to the hospital. The paramedic administered a pain reliever, providing temporary relief to prevent further harm to the eye. The paramedic searched the car for a cup of coffee.
Hey, that's mine!
Fill the CFD.
After disinfecting, they carefully secured the eyeliner pencil in place using the cup and then wrapped it with gauze to complete the dressing.
Ambulance. Kathleen, can you walk?
I think so.
Okay, slowly. Step. Go.
The girl's tongue swelled crazily, which left her best friend in shock at first glance. Her friend asked what she had consumed. Suspecting almond milk in her coffee had triggered an allergic reaction, she urgently inquired if the cafe had any adrenaline, and they indeed had it. She grabbed it and administered it by injecting it into the girl's thigh. Surprisingly, the girl's symptoms didn't improve. Instead, her tongue continued to swell, making it difficult for her to breathe. In a state of panic, the woman called 911. The operator, based on her description, concluded it wasn't an allergy but rather facial swelling due to stress. Meanwhile, the girl went into shock. Time was needed for the rescue team to arrive, so the operator guided the friend over the phone, instructing her to use a spoon to press down on the swollen tongue and insert a straw into the throat. Despite diligently following these instructions, the girl still couldn't regain her breath. A nearby man who witnessed the situation stepped in. He pinched her face firmly, inducing a sensation of pain. Finally, the girl regained consciousness. Just as the rescue team arrived at the scene, The woman's leg is stuck in the hole. Simultaneously, a large bus approached. Firefighters quickly positioned themselves in front of the vehicle. Other team members rushed over too. Despite the efforts of 2 firefighters, they were unable to pull the woman's leg free. The asphalt even scratched her thigh. The firefighters had no choice but to carefully dig her leg out bit by bit. The team medic quietly warned, if not handled properly, the woman might lose her entire leg.
Did you just say lose my leg? Is that true?
The woman's emotions were gradually spiraling out of control. Why did all the misfortunes have to happen in one day? It turns out, her best friend is moving away, but she has already fallen in love with her. Just then, the best friend arrives. The woman finally pours out her feelings.
More than just friend feelings and...
Unexpectedly, the best friend kissed her directly. It turns out, she harbored the same feelings. With the support of her girlfriend, the woman's leg was finally pulled free. Do you still dare to look at your phone while walking?
The girl was trapped in the pool, surrounded by a swarm of bees. Unable to escape, the firefighters were at a loss for what to do. Suddenly, Buck learned from the woman that there had just been a perfume launch event. It turned out the girl had been wearing perfume, which attracted the bees. So, Buck stared at the bearded guy, sprayed him with an entire bottle of perfume, and sent him to lure the bees away. The bearded guy was terrified, constantly trying to convince himself not to be scared. Then, with no hesitation, he rushed out. Sure enough, the bees chased after him. The poor guy ended up running 5 kilometers, covered head to toe in bees. Meanwhile, the firefighters seized the chance to pull the girl out of the water and immediately began treating her. The woman, holding her dog, shouted loudly,
Attention! Does anybody here have erectile dysfunction?
Everyone around looked completely baffled. Turned out, just moments earlier, there had been a plane accident. A man was suffering from high-altitude pulmonary edema. He was coughing up bright red phlegm and was on the brink of death. The firefighter told the woman only ED meds could save him. The woman asked around, and finally, an elderly man raised his hand. She got the medication and prepared to give it to the man, but he was unconscious and couldn't swallow it. She then asked if anyone had a nebulizer. At that point, the old man's wife chimed in, saying she had one.
You two, really coming through. Perks of being geriatric, dear.
The woman quickly crushed the pill, mixed it with water, and administered it through the nebulizer. After 666 minutes, the man finally regained consciousness, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. But then, the firefighter reminded the woman to cover the man with a blanket.
What's the blanket for?
Modesty.
Right.
The firefighters just went to buy a cup of coffee. Their fire truck got towed away. When they asked what happened, the police said,
You parked in a fire lane.
It's a fire truck.
Well, where's the fire?
The police handed a ticket to the firefighters, then rode off. A few days later, the captain paid to get the truck back, but found a 10-meter scratch on it.
All right, you see this? This is war.
To vent their anger, the fire chief invited the police team for a friendly baseball game, but just as the game was about to start, their star player was late. When the star finally showed up, the fire team had already lost half the points. Then they found out that he had been held by the traffic cop for an hour because he parked wrong. Looking at the officer's smile, the fire chief figured out what was going on. He went up to argue with the officer, but the officer said, Isn't it you firefighters who always park wrong? The fire chief couldn't hold back his anger and decided to settle it with the officer. Which side do you think will win? Firefighters were saving someone, but found out that the person they saved looked exactly like the person in the funeral photo. What's going on? Just a moment ago, a funeral was happening at the funeral home, but before the speech was finished, a car crashed in, knocking down a family member at the funeral.
I'm sorry for your loss, ma'am. I can't imagine how hard it must have been to lose your twin.
Sorry for my loss. That's me.
It turns out the woman had cancer, since she hadn't seen her loved ones in a long time, and didn't want to miss seeing them after she passed. She had to come up with this crazy idea.
But what better place to be for your own funeral than the front row?
Even with cancer, she was very optimistic. If you were in her shoes, would you want to attend your own funeral? A 10-meter long steel needle, not only stuck in the boy's heart, but pushed in deeper by the boy himself.
Get
If we compare it to kissing, this would definitely be a French kiss. But after looking at the x-ray, the doctor found that the boy had 4 of these needles in his chest, and the longest one was stuck in his heart. If it's not taken out quickly, it could cause a blockage. But the boy refused surgery because he said he just broke up with his girlfriend, and only the pain from the needle could cover the pain inside him. The head of psychiatry saw it was a heartbreak, and immediately said he had a friend around the same age who wanted to date recently, so he could introduce them. Hearing this, the boy felt much better in his heart. Then the doctor said, but that girl doesn't like guys with holes in their hearts, so if he wants to date her, it's best to have the surgery soon. The boy thought this made sense, so he agreed to the surgery. Have you ever had a painful breakup like this? A massive explosion occurred at the hospital. The boy's mother died right there. He didn't have time to grieve. He picked up his sister and dialed 911. After confirming his location, the operator told him to stay put. Firefighters were on their way, but smoke was continuously seeping in through the door cracks. The boy had to block the gap with a towel and pour water on it. At that moment, the call suddenly disconnected. The firefighters were blocked by the fire on their way upstairs. Unable to get through, they had to take risks, using the fire extinguisher in the room while moving forward to extinguish the flames.
Too hot! The flames are too hot!
Firefighter Buckley, Firefighter Diaz, are you there?
Luckily, the firefighters were fine, but they discovered room 318 was fully engulfed. The people inside unlikely survived. At that moment, another operator received a call from the boy. It turned out the boy was in the room across from 318, and they were still alive. The firefighters immediately rushed over and rescued them.
Let's go, come on!
The kid is bouncing on the trampoline, out of the blue.
911, what's your emergency?
911 rolls up. Captain Cool discovers the lady's hand and waist, doing a tango with the trampoline springs. She's frozen, not daring to twitch a muscle. The guy asks can she wiggle those fingers. Turns out, she's got finger freedom. Trampoline missed the nerve memo. Even the spring on her backside didn't pull a ninja move on her spine. Lucky break. Next up, the firefighters whip out a chainsaw. They chop the whole darn door off, lady included, and whisk her away to the hospital. At the hospital, the son hands her the phone and spills the beans. She's been accidentally live streaming this trampoline circus. Instant 1 million followers. The lady's pumped, telling her son, we're hitting the jackpot.
The man's throat was pierced by a chainsaw, rendering him unable to move or speak. He could only call 911.
Hello, this is 911. Is anyone there? Hello, I can hear you.
The rookie operator was bewildered, wondering if this was a prank. At that moment, the experienced woman stepped in.
Touch a button if the answer is yes.
Do you need police? Do you need medical assistance?
Are you injured?
The man pressed the button. The operator immediately traced his phone signal and sent firefighters to search for him. They found the man under a tree.
Got a visual! Oh God.
The man's neck was pierced by a blade. They had to first remove the chainsaw from the engine, then quickly bandaged him and send him to the hospital. To make his children happy on Halloween, the man shoved his head into a pumpkin he bought a month ago, only to find he couldn't pull it out no matter what. The captain told Buck to get some lubricant to forcibly remove it.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, wait, stop. He's saying it hurts.
When the team lifted the pumpkin, they discovered it had already rotted inside, filled with 10,000 bacteria, which had caused the man's neck and face to break out in hives. In an emergency, the firefighters had to use a saw to cut the pumpkin. After 12:34 minutes, the pumpkin finally cracked open, revealing the man's face. Chim quickly inserted a straw into the man's mouth and suctioned out the pumpkin guts he had inhaled. Under the anxious gaze of his daughter, the man finally recovered. As the firefighters were leaving, the man lamented how stupid he was for almost choking to death on a pumpkin. Buck reassured him he had seen plenty of foolish things. Just then, in the next second,
I think I dislocated my shoulder.
Dispatch, we're gonna need an additional RA unit.
The boy's bottom and face are on the same level. How will he go to the bathroom now? It turns out the boy was cheering for his teammates when he collided with a football player, and that's how the accident happened. An hour later, the firefighters finally arrived, but they had never seen anything like this before. They had to secure the boy and take him to the hospital, but as soon as he got in the ambulance, he passed out. Not only did he have external injuries, but he also had internal bleeding. If they couldn't stop the bleeding quickly, the boy might never wake up. In a critical moment, the man decided to use a balloon to stop the bleeding, but the ambulance was moving. Doing this kind of procedure on a 1 centimeter wound was really hard.
How'd that go for you?
50-50.
But to save the boy, the firefighters had to cooperate. The woman brought in an ultrasound machine to find the spot, and the firefighter driving slowed down in the shaking vehicle.
Okay, got it. Now here's the tricky part.
After securing the catheter, the man slowly inserted the balloon.
BP's back, and so is our boy!
The boy regained consciousness.
Dad?
Hearing Dad reminded the man of his own son.
Gonna be okay, kid.
Are you missing your dad? How hard do firefighters compete for the lieutenant position? A driver collapses in the truck from carbon monoxide poisoning, spinning in circles in the mud. The man initially plans to drive the fire truck to block the car, but the woman charges in without hesitation.
Who does she think she is, Laura Croft?
Nah, man. She's Firefighters.
The driver is successfully rescued, and the captain praises her.
Bravo, Milani.
Showboat.
Then, a worker's fake hand falls into the sewer. The female firefighter intends to use a pole to fish it out, but the man jumps in directly, pulling up the hand and even finding the ring that was on it. When it's time to wrap up, the captain sends someone to grab a hose, but both of them rush forward to take it. Neither wants to back down. The captain, puzzled by their antics, steps up to ask, but before he knows it,
You opened the wrong gauge, didn't you?
She did it.
the plane crash left a girl with a broken leg. She needed immediate surgery. Firefighter guided the other passengers over the phone.
You're gonna cut it open. We need something razor sharp. Airplane cutlery will not work.
But where could they find a knife on a plane? At that moment, a blackie come out, asking for a toothbrush and a cigarette lighter. He crafted a toothbrush blade in just 5 minutes. The man took the blade and made an incision, starting from the girl's knee down to her ankle.
Oh God! Is this supposed to make a pop?
The surrounding passengers watched in horror, but the girl said,
"It feels better. You cut my leg open and it feels better."
Her leg turned pink again, and her pulse returned. Everyone cheered in relief. Do you know where the man learned his toothbrush sharpening skills? A steel pipe stabbed into her belly.
Please save my baby girl.
The doctors can only do their best, but as they turn the woman's body, she passes out. The ultrasound shows the baby isn't doing well. To keep them both safe, the doctors must perform surgery quickly, but the chest x-ray shows there's free air in her abdomen, so they can't do a C-section. The head doctor decides to help her give birth, while also performing surgery. The doctors take out the steel pipe and cut open her skin to get the baby out, but the baby's face is blue, and they need to do CPR right away. The mom also goes into ventricular fibrillation. Luckily, the doctor's quick actions help the baby breathe. When the mother hears her baby cry, her heartbeat goes back to normal. What a miraculous moment. Do you love your mom? The dude was trapped inside the car. The firefighters tried to pry open the vehicle, but their tool unexpectedly broke. It turned out this was an armored truck carrying $3 million in cash. Halfway through, it had been hijacked by criminals. The driver, initially confident, had tried to push through, only to be shot in the head. Now the truck was overturned, and the dude was trapped inside. The firefighters wanted to rescue, but were at a loss, because the windshield of the armored truck was made in China. At that moment, one clever firefighter had an idea. Since the criminals fired shots, there had to be bullet holes in the truck. That might be a good point of entry. They started searching the vehicle, and finally found a hole in the glass. Then they began hammering away. After 1234 hits, the glass only had a small crack. The captain pulled out the big hammer. Then they used hooks to pull the glass away. They rescued the man, but his pulse was weak. The medic had to perform emergency surgery on site, cutting his trachea to insert a tube for oxygen.
Good. Come on, come on. Come on, open your eyes for me. Come on. Come on. There you are. There you are. All right, that's okay. Try not to move. There's a tube in your throat that's breathing for you. Blink twice if you understand. Good job. There we go.
The woman was stuck on the shower rack, unable to move. Her boyfriend quickly called the firefighters, but when the firefighter got closer, she saw the handle was stuck in the woman's back. The firefighter told her to get a saw ready. The woman asked why they didn't just pull it out. The firefighter explained that the wall bracket looked like a fish hook, making it hard to take out easily. The medic told her not to move around. The firefighter grabbed the electric saw, and the woman got scared and wanted to run away. The firefighter quickly explained he needed to cut off the handle, but if she moved around, he might cut something else. She hugged the medic for comfort. The firefighter carefully looked for a way to do it. With the medic's reassurance, the woman finally calmed down. The firefighter started the operation. An hour later, the handle was finally cut off. After a quick bandage, the woman was taken to the hospital. But I'm curious, if the woman was taking a shower, why wasn't the man wearing any clothes? Either. The police lifted her legs and then hugged her tightly. What was going on? Just a moment ago, the woman wanted to get back at her boss by printing her butt and sticking it on the company door, but she didn't expect the printer's glass to be so thin. When she sat down, she fell right in. She tried to push herself up, but ended up sinking deeper. Luckily, her phone was right next to her, so she called 911 right away. When the police arrived, he first lifted her legs to check for glass shards. Then he puts torn cardboard around her butt to protect her without the glass in the way. The police quickly got her out. What did you think they were doing at first? On the road, the back half of the car was nowhere to be seen.
Where's the rest of it?
They smashed the window. The driver was still somewhat conscious. The man in the passenger seat had a face covered in blood. Firefighters immediately began the rescue operation. Meanwhile, others set out to find the missing half of the car. After walking 666 meters, they finally saw the car's rear end stuck on a fence. Inside, a woman was unconscious. A firefighter checked her pulse.
She's alive.
At that moment, the woman woke up, looking terrified. Even in this state, she was still worried about the others.
Where are the others? They're about 100 feet away.
The firefighters reassured her not to worry, put a neck brace on her, and lifted her onto the stretcher. So the question is, how did the car end up in two pieces? The firefighter shaved his head, but he got mocked by his co-workers.
Damn, son, somebody get me my shades. Nice chrome dome, buddy.
Some even said his bald head affected their work. The man felt really down because he was diagnosed with cancer last week. He didn't even get to attend his son's wedding. He had to shave his head for chemotherapy. But during a rescue, because he was bald, the person in trouble refused help.
I'm good. What?
Preferring to stay in the fire. Why is there such a big bias against bald heads? The doctor pulled a cockroach out of the girl's nose. The nurse was in shock.
A cockroach. What?
But how did the cockroach crawl into her nostril? Through a CT scan, the doctor discovered the girl had a skull fracture. Cerebrospinal fluid had leaked into her nasal cavity, attracting the cockroach to crawl in. But why did the girl have a fracture? After further asking, the girl finally admitted she was a victim of domestic violence. Afraid to go home, she went to a homeless camp, but she was brought to the hospital after having seizures. The nurse called the child welfare department, hoping they could take her in, but the girl was afraid of being sent back to face more abuse, so she secretly ran back to the homeless camp. After their shift, the two went to see her. The girl was lying on the ground, looking very weak. They brought her some essentials and antibiotics, and taught her friend how to care for her wounds, hoping she could survive in this harsh place. The boy's bottom and face are on the same level. How will he go to the bathroom now? It turns out the boy was cheering for his teammates when he collided with a football player, and that's how the accident happened. An hour later, the firefighters finally arrived, but they had never seen anything like this before. They had to secure the boy and take him to the hospital, but as soon as he got in the ambulance, he passed out. Not only did he have external injuries, but he also had internal bleeding. If they couldn't stop the bleeding quickly, the boy might never wake up. In a critical moment, The man decided to use a balloon to stop the bleeding, but the ambulance was moving. Doing this kind of procedure on a 1-centimeter wound was really hard.
How'd that go for you? 50-50.
But to save the boy, the firefighters had to cooperate. The woman brought in an ultrasound machine to find the spot, and the firefighter driving slowed down in the shaking vehicle.
Okay, got it. Now here's the tricky part.
After securing the catheter, the man slowly inserted the balloon.
BP's back, and so is our boy!
The boy regained consciousness.
Dad?
Hearing Dad reminded the man of his own son.
Gonna be okay, kid.
Are you missing your dad? The man was frozen solid like a popsicle. The captain quickly started CPR, but with a crisp crack, the man's chest shattered. This unfortunate man had only been rescued a day earlier when he was trapped under a car, with his arm bones sticking out. Screaming in pain, the firefighters quickly anesthetized him and lifted the car to save his arm. However, the man was still determined to participate in an upcoming golf tournament, ignoring his wife's objections. He went for a cryotherapy session.
And I hope you freeze to death.
When the firefighters arrived, the man had already been frozen for 34 minutes, and the door was locked. The woman said she had tried using a hairdryer to warm him up, but it didn't work. The firefighters quickly pried open the door. The captain knocked on the man's chest and found it surprisingly fragile. He attempted to perform CPR, but then this boy was completely encased in concrete. His hands shake like a leaf. He cried out, begging the doctors to save him. The doctor told him the several tons of concrete were squeezing all the moisture out of him. Keep crying. He'll turn into a raisin. The boy had no choice but to suck it up and hold back his tears. The doctors started tapping and chipping away at the concrete bit by bit. After 34 minutes, they were down to just one stubborn patch on his belly, but that piece was the most dangerous. Removing it could release toxins into his bloodstream and knock him out cold. Sure enough, the boy fainted right on the spot. Just then, a girl swooped in, claiming to be his girlfriend. It was her that made him jump into the concrete. She leaned down and gave him a kiss, and the boy woke up. The man is talking on the phone with his wife. Suddenly, a truck appears behind him, heading straight for him. Before he can even tell his wife he loves her, the truck crashes into the phone booth. Round and round it goes, until the man runs into a car and drives away to escape. Just when he thinks it's over, while waiting for a train to leave, the truck shows up again. It pushes him forward and tries to make him crash into the train. Luckily, the train leaves in time, and the man barely avoids disaster. The truck honks 3 times, and then drives off. But as he drives downhill, he sees the truck waiting for him at the bottom. He tries to overtake it, but it blocks his way and fills the air with exhaust. He has no choice but to stop and wait. He hides in a corner, deciding to wait until he wakes up. 10 hours pass, and only when a train passes by does he wake up from the noise. He laughs to himself, thinking it's finally over. But up ahead, he sees the truck again. Isn't this a dream? To go viral on TikTok, the girl stuffed a harmonica in her mouth, but she didn't realize it was just like a light bulb, easy to put in, hard to get out. When the firefighter asked her, she could only blow the harmonica in response. Even more ridiculous, her friend was translating for her.
How are you feeling?
She says it hurts like hell.
It's okay, we're gonna pack you up and take you to the hospital.
She wants to know if there's anything you can do here. We don't have insurance. We can't afford an ambulance or a hospital stay.
The firefighters immediately brought over some lubricant and pliers, preparing to forcibly remove the harmonica. Meanwhile, the girl's friend whipped out her phone to start a live stream, even with just 8 viewers. But the captain didn't stop her. It was a good lesson for the girl's fans, not to put random things in their mouths. After some effort, she successfully removed the harmonica, but the girl's face would still need some time to recover. A crowd gathered outside the operating room because today's patient is a panda. The panda had some heart problems. Not even regular vets wanted to treat it, and the heart surgery chief was unsure what to do. But the hospital said they had to save the panda, not just because the annual rental fee for pandas is a whopping $1 million, but also because people love giant pandas. If the Chicago hospital can save it, it would be great for their public relations and could bring in a lot of donations. The hospital director promised that once the donations came in, the heart surgery department would get priority. So, the doctors had no choice but to go ahead with the surgery. But during the operation, the panda's heart rate shot up, its blood pressure dropped quickly, and its heart stopped. The doctors had to give it electric shocks. After 2 rounds of shocks, the panda's heart rate came back, and the surgery continued. But the ultrasound showed there was fluid around the panda's heart. So, the doctors had to do a pericardiocentesis to drain it. Finally, the panda's blood pressure and heart rate returned to normal, and it woke up from its coma. But seriously, isn't this panda just a person in disguise? The landlord comes to collect the rent, but waiting for her is a surprise. Surprise, baby. The woman hides in the bathroom, calling for help.
Is the attacker still there?
Yes. It's in the other room.
It?
It's a tiger.
At the hospital, a man claims he was bitten by his pet, but the scratch marks look way too big for a regular pet. Eventually, after the police press him, the man reveals the truth, but the police is curious. How did he get such a big animal into his apartment? Turns out when he adopted it, the pet was only a few months old. He treated it like a cat, until recently when he realized it was a tiger. This guy is pretty confused. Meanwhile, the fire crew also arrives. The firefighter lowers himself from the roof.
Kitty.
The firefighter almost slips and falls. Luckily, his teammate is strong, and once he regains his balance, he aims for the tiger. But the landlord, losing too much blood, mistakes the tiger scratching the door for help. After successfully sedating the tiger, the firefighters finally get to go in, but the landlord's first words when she sees them are,
No pets.
The plane had just taken off. The captain was chatting with the co-pilot about what to eat for lunch, when suddenly, another plane came straight at them. The captain was sucked out of the hole. Luckily, a seat blocked the hole just in time, but the whole plane was in chaos. The black cop looked at the hole in shock, but quickly pulled herself together and crawled to the cockpit. The co-pilot was badly hurt, but just before passing out, he managed to hit the autopilot button, letting the plane fly on its own. The cop tried to contact the control tower, but realized there was no signal. Surprisingly, her phone had service, so she called 911. The operator quickly transferred her to the control tower, and they got an expert to coach her on landing the plane.
I'm gonna land the plane!
The cop was shocked, but she had no choice. The expert told her to turn the plane around, using the control panel, but she couldn't find the right switch. A little boy pointed.
This one!
And the plane finally turned around.